Good morning. Wait. Why am I saying good morning? Damn it. Okay.
They
Uh,
might be watching this in the morning. I don't know.
that's fair. Hello and welcome to Kids of Stuff, a Chucky podcast, a Haunted MTL original podcast. This is David Davis. We're returning back. We've changed the schedule a little bit. We're going every couple of weeks now. We just wrapped up the first season of the Chucky TV show, and I need to introduce my guest. Today we have Jada Gonsalves. How are you doing, Jada?
Hello, David. I'm doing quite well. Happy to be here.
And you're all caught up with the Chucky TV show?
I am, yes. I've seen all the episodes.
So, overall, what did you think of it?
I think overall, my feelings are positive. It was a fun, creative, often scary, and often funny horror TV show. I think my feelings, I have some complaints. I think as a whole, I think the season was a little short. Maybe could have benefited from a couple more episodes to more flesh out some of the kind of rushed subplots.
And that's fair. That's fair.
But it is a season one and it's been confirmed for a season two. So hopefully, they'll air out some of those kinks and season two will be even stronger.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to season 2. So, today we are doing a special episode because I've been promising to do these where it's not about a specific movie or it's not about the TV show. Kind of a more generalized exploration of Chucky. And we're going to be doing a top 5 countdown of our favorite Chucky kills, which I'm very excited about.
Me too.
But before we dive into that, I'd like to, introduce you to our audience a little bit. So, I guess the first question I have for you is, how did we meet?
Well, we met on Twitter, really.
Mm-hmm.
I put up a lot of tweets about horror movies and about the Chucky franchise in specific. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm not sure who followed who first, but you started responding to mine, and we got a certain
Mm-hmm.
rapport. And one day you replied to one of my tweets talking about Chucky's kill count,
Mm-hmm.
saying that you had an episode of your podcast in mind that you think I'd be good to guest star for. And I said, well, that
Yeah.
sounds perfectly entertaining and fun, so why not?
Did you finish up that list? I haven't checked that list recently. The kill count list.
My kill count list, I have more or less finished it up. I still have some reservations about uh, the final count for the final episode, specifically that movie theater scene.
Yeah, how reliable of a narrator is Chucky at the end there when he gives us the kill count? You know what I mean?
Yeah, his kill count. I mean, it wasn't even that accurate because it didn't account for Tiffany's kills. It kind
Mm-hmm.
of accounted for the kills in the flashback, but I don't know. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Going through it, I guesstimated that it was about, including Lexi's dad, 7 people who died in the movie
Mm.
theater. That's just my
Okay.
guesstimation. Other people might have a different take. I might change my mind and change the
Mm-hmm.
list, but that's where it stands right now. Is that I think I
Well,
saw
I'm
6 others randos getting stabbed.
Yeah, most likely. Well, I am looking forward to seeing that list when you feel like you have it done. But yeah, I started following you because I had seen you tweeting about, I think it was Bride of Chucky. I think that's when I first started following you. Is because I was enjoying those tweets. I do a lot of live tweeting myself. For Haunted MTL, I do the Joe Bob Briggs Last Drive-In tweet along things. Yeah, there's just something really fun and communal about doing those little tweet alongs as you're watching stuff. Now, do you do that with any other franchises? Because I recall you doing it with Chucky, but I'm hard pressed to remember if you've done it with any other film series.
I haven't really done it with like a full series, like a full marathon. Not yet, anyway. I've done it with a
Mm-hmm.
few uh, other movies since then. Um,
Mm.
it all depends on whether I'm watching it at the right time, and I think I'm gonna get like people responding because live tweets are more fun if there's like at least a couple people following
Yeah,
along.
people you can bounce off of. If you were to do it with another franchise specifically, which one would you do?
Uh, Well, it would definitely be another horror series because
Hmm.
horror is my muse, my main drive. I think I've been considering the Leprechaun series.
No, that creepy little thing.
Yeah, which is another series of 8 movies, close to Chucky's
Hmm.
7,
Hmm.
and a huge guilty pleasure of mine, even though most of the movies I'd say would classify as bad. They're
Hmm.
they're mostly bad movies, but they have a special
Oh,
place in my heart.
plus he's about the same size as Chucky, so it's just kind of a different skin on the same thing
Yeah,
in a lot
you
of
know,
ways.
they're kindred spirits, Chucky and Leprechaun. They're both short little angry demons.
That feels like that's a crossover that needs to happen eventually. I know everybody was talking about like what was it, a Nightmare on Elm Street and Chucky crossover at some point, but no, Chucky and Leprechaun seems like a match made in heaven or hell. um so what I asked my guests what they tend to do. So can you give us a little bit of background about like where your career is, what you're up to, that sort of thing?
Well, right now I'm still working and putting together money to go into university. I want to get into screenwriting eventually, but
Hmm.
I'm not quite there yet. I have a writing portfolio and I do a lot of writing, which I mostly keep to myself and don't post. But I have uh, put serious consideration into maybe after the Christmas holidays, maybe getting into some online article writing.
Oh, that would be excellent. Do you have any places that you're like movie sites or just what sort of articles are you wanting to write?
Definitely movie sites, because I
Okay.
can talk about movies all day long and write all kinds of like think pieces and just fun little
Hmm.
lists and stuff in regards to things I have an interest in. I've looked at a few movie sites uh, briefly, but ideally I would want one where I could like write articles pertaining to things I'm interested in and not be too tied down by them. Like I want to avoid places like Screen Rant where it's kind of
Yeah.
like you write what they want you to write to
Hmm.
fill out a mandate. I would want something more
Yeah.
low key than that, I think.
Yeah, because I was doing some of that for comic book resources for a little bit. I think they just strictly go by CBR now. But I wrote a bunch of articles for them, but it was all like listicle stuff, and like the pickings were very slim. You'd have people who'd like pick all like these topics and then just sit on them. And meanwhile, there's like some obscure bumfuck character I don't know about, and it's like, oh, I don't want to write about that. Like the research was fun, the articles were good, but I got tired of writing about like cosplayers. You know what I mean?
I
It's
do.
like the top 10 Luffy cosplayers. It's like, yeah, I love One Piece, but I don't want to write about cosplayers. So quick question about your writing habits. Do you do warm up pages in the morning?
Uh, like regularly warm up. I Not really. I do warm up writing, but usually that's like before I'm gonna get into something big,
Hmm.
not like on a
Hmm.
set schedule.
Yeah, like I've been trying to get into more schedule writing too, so I just figured I'd pick your brain on that. But no, I'm very excited to see what you do because I like really enjoyed your Chucky tweets, just so much,
Thank you.
and just seeing you turn loose on a bunch of different other topics. I just feel like that would be very rewarding for me because I enjoy reading what you put out there.
Well, that I
Um,
appreciate that a whole lot.
well, I do have two other brief questions. So specifically, you've mentioned that you're interested in horror. We've talked about Leprechaun and Chucky. Just a little bit more horror background on you. So specifically, like, what is the first horror film that you've ever seen?
The first horror film I ever seen, probably Gremlins, which I watched when I was
Mm.
just a kid. I watched that movie before I was uh allowed to watch horror movies, really.
I think it's a good, perfect introduction to like horror for children. Because it's really funny too. I absolutely love Gremlins.
Yeah, I adore Gremlins. Gremlins 2 is I think one of my favorite comedies of all time. I watched that just a few days ago. It's not a Christmas movie, but Gosh darn it.
It it's Christmas adjacent. And then speaking of that movie, like every time they show the chocolate mousse, I lose my shit.
The chocolate
Cuz
mousse, yeah.
yeah, because I'm terrible with the puns. I love puns so much. They're like my favorite thing, and it annoys the crap out of people. When they show that chocolate mousse, I'm just like, nope, this movie gets me.
Puns are underrated, I think. You know, they're
hmm
they're
hmm
they're a humble kind of joke, but a necessary one.
I think they're a sign of a quick wit too. I'm not trying to like puff myself up here, but just to kind of that instant word association and able to craft a joke out of that. I think that's a very positive skill, and I think we shame those who dabble in those words far too much.
I mean, there are bad puns, but there are also real good and clever ones.
Well, I think the bad puns are some of the most fun. I love the bad puns.
Bad puns can also be fun, yes, in a slightly more ironic way.
hmm Okay, so then my last question that I kind of asked all the guests. So you're obviously you're experienced in the Chucky franchise. When did you first get into the Chucky franchise?
Well, I first watched Child's Play when I was a teenager. I
hmm
watched it because at that point I was transitioning into a full-fledged horror fan, really getting into horror stuff as I grew up. And I was really into, well, I still am, really into toy collecting. I have all kinds of
Mm.
like, I have a whole shelf of vintage Transformers and stuff. And I'm
hmm
really into like the history of toy lines and stuff like that. It's a secondary passion of mine along with movies. And so Child's Play appealed to me as something that spoke to both.
So are you like a Transformers fan, or are you just collecting the toys for the kind of just collectible purpose?
I'm an all-around Transformers fan. I like the toys. I watch most of the shows. I have a couple of the video games, the
That's
comics.
awesome.
I'm a fan of the franchise.
Yeah, I have a few Transformers fans who I follow, and they post a lot of the shipping, and I'm just like, oh, that's cute. Just all the pairings of the different robots. Like I I enjoy Transformers, but it was never really my thing. I think more of my thing was Thundercats.
Mm.
I think that was my franchise. But no, I that's cool. Like how big is your collection?
It's pretty sizable. I haven't been able to add to it much in the past couple of years. I haven't been able to attend
Hmm.
any Transformers conventions for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
have some good stuff. I've got some Beast Wars toys. I've got some stuff that's signed by various voice actors.
Oh, that's cool.
I've got a nice Transformers Prime Starscream with a autograph from Steve Bloom on it. I think that's one of my favorites.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, I always thought the Beast Wars was like, if I were to pick a favorite version of Transformers, I think it would be Beast Wars, just because okay, it's robots and dinosaurs.
Beast Wars is awesome. And an
Yeah.
acquired taste. You have to get used to like the animation and some of the weird
Mhm.
90s jokes, but once you get into it, it's real good.
Yeah, I recall Cartoon Network had like a 2D animated Transformers a while back, and they had Weird Al Yankovic as one of them. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I should watch this. And then like I never did.
That was Transformers
So,
animated, I believe. I think he played that version of Wheelie as like a reference
hmm.
to Transformers the movie, and he even has a line where he says, "I can dare to be stupid."
That's wonderful. I'm glad that he's kept up with the franchise.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, I think we could probably start getting into our list here.
Yes.
So,
Let's get into the meat
what
of
we're
it.
gonna, yep, we're gonna go from our number 5 down to our number 1. You'll go, then I'll go, and we'll discuss as we go through. So, yeah, let's hear what your number 5 is.
My fifth favorite kill in the Chucky franchise is Joan, the assistant in Seed of Chucky. She's
Mmm.
Jennifer Tilly's British assistant who, near the end of the movie, comes into Jennifer Tilly's house when she has been captured by the Chucky family. And she
Mm-hmm.
creeps up the stairs, and Chucky is sneaking up behind her, prepared to kill her, when suddenly, from the shadows, another doll comes with the old lighter and hairspray trick and sets
Mm-hmm.
her ablaze. She runs around on fire, and then she falls off of the balcony
mm-hmm.
2 stories
Yeah,
down
that
onto the ground.
and that one is a that one is a fun one because it's it's the lighter and the lighter and the hairspray is a total trope, but like I there's just something very fun about it, like that improvised weapon aspect of it is very fun.
I like kills where people are set on fire because they're very flashy and extravagant, and they're hard to do.
Hmm.
They're very hard to act out on set. So I
Well,
appreciate the effort put into them.
yeah, plus it keeps those stunt people employed. I mean, that's a very specific skill set. Hey, light me on fire. I'll do this scene for you.
The Chucky franchise is consistently good work for a lot of stunt people.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
is for sure. And it's also like a noteworthy kill for being Glenda Ray's main kill. She technically kills the guy at the end of Bride of Chucky, but Joan is like her main kill. Glenda
Mm-hmm.
is Chucky's the female half of Chucky's bigendered offspring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting, but technically, it's not Chucky's kill,
It's not, no. A couple of these are not Chucky's kills, to be honest. They are kills of the Chucky franchise.
which is totally fine. I like to be technically correct.
Mhm. I mean, not many slasher villains. Most slasher villains are the killers of their
Uh huh.
franchise, Chucky is a bit of a special case for
Oh yeah.
having allies.
But yeah, I mean, you're totally right. That is that is a very fun kill. I absolutely love that one. Like I'm hard pressed to think of a kill in the franchise where I'm not like, oh, this is fun.
There's very
But
few of them. Very few
mhm.
boring kills.
But yeah, so I do appreciate that one. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give you my number five, which is significantly less flashy.
Fair enough.
Um, and that was Maggie Peterson's death when she was shoved out the window by Chucky in Child's Play.
Right.
Which since then we've had another defenstration in the series, which is a lot flashier, which I could have put on this list, which is when Bree gets shoved out of the office window by Chucky in the TV show. But I went with Maggie's death because I think the death serves a couple of purposes. Um, First is that it can be read as kind of ambiguous as to whether it was Chucky or Andy doing it, which was kind of part of the original idea of the franchise, that like maybe Andy was the killer, that his rage is involved in this thing. It's also like a great subtle death that kind of that shows how Chucky can be a subtle killer if he didn't get distracted, if he didn't get angry and that sort of thing, like how much damage he can do just by creating these little accidents. So yeah, I think the Maggie Peterson defenstration, I think that's a fun kill. It's not the flashiest kill, but I think it's kind of a good setup to a more. It sounds weird to say, but like a more stealthy version of Chucky that we never really got.
Yeah, for sure. And there's something to be said for the more sneaky kills that Chucky does, and he does have a few others. But the first movie was definitely humble beginnings when it comes to
Hmm.
his showboaty personality, when it comes to killing people in specific. And Maggie
Hmm.
was the first on-screen kill we got. So,
Hmm.
and I do think it's a
Yeah.
better framing of the throwing out the window death than Bree, just for like a few little reasons since they're so similar. But I do think Maggie
Hmm.
comes out on top, so to
Oh, there you
speak.
go. Well, actually, she hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I think yeah, as far as like the out the window kill, it's not as flashy as Breeze, but I do think it's a good statement piece. It's a good thesis statement for the franchise.
Yeah.
Um, so what's your number four?
My fourth favorite kill in the Chucky franchise is Mr. Sullivan, the CEO of Play Pal Toys from Child's Play 3. This was
Mm.
the opening kill of that movie. He was a character that returned from Child's Play 2 where he survived. He didn't survive this time.
No, he did not.
He did not. Chucky has this big extended scene where he messes around with him a whole bunch by turning on a bunch of other toys. And that's a very
Mm.
fun bit, very much playing
Mm.
into Chucky's toy identity. He comes out, he deals one of his best one liners: "Don't fuck with the Chuck." and then he strangles the guy with a yo-yo. Now, there's a
Mm-hmm.
specific reason I appreciate this kill in particular, which is it's the only kill in the whole series that is a strangling kill. Now, Chucky, for the first
Mm.
few movies, and then they sort of lost this plot point in the later movies. He was a serial killer in Chicago known as the Lakeshore Strangler. That
Mm-hmm.
that was his identity. They repeat it in every one of the first three movies that he was the Lakeshore Strangler. He never strangles anybody. For the first two movies, no, not a one person gets strangled. He tries to strangle Officer Mike Norris, but he
Mm-hmm.
fails. And to be fair, it is probably harder to strangle people when you have tiny little stubby doll hands.
Exactly.
But you
Well,
know,
he also tried to use the bag on in Child's Play 2, I believe, where the assistant to Mr. Sullivan, I think at one point Chucky used like a plastic bag to try to suffocate him, but that's not strangling.
no, that's
But
not a
it is like,
strangling.
yeah,
In my mind, a strangling to me is when you're squeezing the life out of the neck. Just a suffocation is not the same thing. It's not a suffocation, or it is. It's not a strangulation any more than it would be if you drowned a person.
that is fair. I withdraw my statement.
So points to Mr. Sullivan for being a bona fide victim of the Lakeshore Strangler.
And that is a really fun scene because it's fun when Chucky gets to like gaslight and manipulate people. It's very satisfying to see. So when he's doing all the stuff with all the toys to throw Sullivan off and everything like that, it is a lot of fun. And then yeah, that point you made about the toy identity coming through, because it would be interesting to see toys get worked more into like the way Chucky kills people, but then that would probably turn him into like a Batman villain or something like that. Maybe a little too gimmicky.
Well, you know, Chucky's a fickle guy. You know, he kind of
Hmm.
alternates between what kind of identity he wants to put on his kills. I think sometimes he leans into being a toy, sometimes he leans into the voodoo stuff, sometimes he's just trying to be a regular old serial killer man. It just depends on his mood, I think, and
Hmm.
that's understandable.
Yeah, I mean, we all got to try different things and see what works.
Hmm.
So hopefully it doesn't involve killing people, but to each their own.
Well, yeah, you do what you got to do. We we all got our own path we got to take. I'm not here to judge.
Exactly. Right. Sorry. Um. Okay. Excuse me. I got the giggles all of a sudden. All right. So I'll go ahead and do my number 4, and this one is from Seed of Chucky. Probably one of the most ridiculous kills in the series, like least logically sound, and that is when Chucky guts Redman.
Red Man, right? I remember him,
Oh, and then of course we have to remember Jennifer Tilly calling him Mr. Redman.
Mr. Redman.
Mr. Redman. So in that scene, Jennifer Tilly, the actress who is also a character in the franchise, Jennifer Tilly,
Right.
she's in the kitchen calling about a roll. And Chucky is under the dining room table because she's trying to wine and dine Mr. Redman to get cast as the Virgin Mary, which is the funniest thing, especially after Bound. Um, so so Redman's eating, I think it was spaghetti, right?
He was
Um,
some kind of a big feast of food was at that
that
table.
that's right.
There was like a
That's
whole
right.
bunch of things, meats and
Maybe I'm confusing the
fruits and
spaghetti for the
vegetables.
guts then.
Yeah,
Um, so then Chucky's under the table and he slices open Redman's guts, and yeah, his stomach and his guts pour out into a big steaming pile. And Redman proceeds to be alive for a few more minutes to have a funny little conversation with Jennifer Tilly where she doesn't realize what's going on. And it's a very, very silly death, like probably one of the silliest in the franchise, I would argue.
now, David, I I hate to show you up on your own podcast here, but I feel very compelled to tell you that Chucky did not do the thing you're just describing. It was Tiffany who was under the table and dissected Red Man in the movie.
Was it?
Yes, it was very specifically her because Chucky was off uh, with
That's
Glenn
right.
killing John Waters, which was what
That
Jennifer
is.
Tilly was actually on the phone about.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Oh, I feel. Oh, I feel bad. Ah, that's okay though. That is all right. Thank you for correcting me on that. You know, it's a doll at least. I
Yeah,
got that part right.
my first kill was from Glenda, not Chucky. So we've
Yeah,
established that there is no Chucky exclusive rule here, I don't think.
that is true. But it's still a really fun death. I just all I've watched way too much Chucky. All these things are getting mixed in my head now at this point.
That's
But
fair. This is why I'm here. I've got the kill count,
yes,
everything
exactly.
specifically
That's
written
right. It was
down.
Tiffany. That was Tiffany.
It was Tiffany that
Oh
killed
wow.
Red Man.
Uh, Fair enough, but it's still a very fun death.
A very fun death, yes.
Do you think it's the most ridiculous in the franchise?
Probably not. To be honest, I'm not sure it's the most ridiculous in the movie.
Okay, that's fair. Just something about that one. I'm like, okay, like, because I'm up for ridiculous deaths, but like just the whole guts pouring out and just kind of like sitting there. It was like,
It's
it's
definitely
silly. I
over the
like it.
top, but like this
Hmm.
is also a movie that has John Waters' face getting melted
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and Tony Gardner getting his head squeezed off and then like flying up at the camera in slow motion.
Yes, yes. Um. So yeah, that one would be my number four though. So yeah, it was actually Tiffany on that one. I don't know why I said Chucky, but hey, it happens.
We got Chucky on the brain, you know.
Hmm. He does that. He gets in your head.
He doesn't like other people getting the spotlight.
Hmm. Hmm. All right, so let's talk about your number three then.
My number 3 favorite kill in the Chucky franchise is from Chucky the TV series. It is
Ooh.
the principal in episode 5.
Heads will roll.
Heads will roll. At the end of episode 5, the mayor has organized this big town hall assembly to try and tell everybody everything's fine. There's no serial killer. Don't panic. And then at one point, she turns and she goes, "Hey, principal of the local school, will you come out and say a few words?" And she does not. Nobody comes out. And out from the stage, over the soundtrack tune of "Yeah, Yeah, Yes, Heads Will Roll Off with Your Head." It's technically in the soundtrack, but I like to believe that it's playing in universe because that would mean Chucky put that song on the stereo just for like the dramatic effect of his reveal, and that seems like something that Chucky would do.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
so, so
Great moment.
that's my head canon. The
Hmm.
the song plays, the head rolls onto the stage, it comes right up in the camera, it blinks with like a dopey expression on its face, and then the curtains pull apart to reveal the principal's disembodied or her decapitated body
Yep.
sitting in a chair doing a pose with like her thumbs up like yeah.
Oh, and it's fun because sometimes when Chucky kind of indulges in those art projects,
Mm-hmm.
it could because I haven't talked about this much, but like trying to figure out if Chucky is like a process or a product killer, and I always saw him as more of a process killer. But like that whole setting her up on display is more of like a product killer thing, and I think it borrows a little bit from kind of the kind of aesthetics of Hannibal, which Don Mancini also wrote on. Because like with Hannibal, there were all these like killers who would like do these very interesting displays with the bodies and that sort of thing. So I think it's kind of a nod to that, I would argue.
I think that's fair. There are definitely several points in the show where you can see the Hannibal inspiration that Don Mancini brought to the writing, and the gory displays in various episodes are definitely an example of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes Chucky he wants to make a statement. Once again, it depends on his mood, and in this case,
Mm-hmm.
I think he was really enjoying freaking everybody out and bringing that message that the mayor is full of shit and
Yeah.
I'm here and y'all better be scared.
He was feeling himself. Good for him. Good for him.
Good for him. Good for him. He's living his best life.
Well, and it also kind of starts that gag of like every time the mayor's like trying to assuage people's fears, something terrible happens, which culminates in the finale of the first season. But that's also kind of a fun little thing because it kind of starts that kind of running gag.
Yeah.
uh, okay, so my third one is also from the Chucky TV show.
Oh what do you know?
Yep. Yeah, a good collection of kills on that show. Gotta admit, good collection of kills.
Definitely.
My choice was the death of Luke Wheeler, when Chucky was in the basement and then vomited a whole bottle of whiskey onto the ground and electrocuted Luke, who was dealing with a junction box.
Right.
Which there's a lot of reasons for that whole kill why I love it so much. Number one, the projectile vomit out of the puppet is absolutely hilarious to me. Just, I think at one point you could even see like the little spouty tube.
Oh, probably.
It reminded me of Team America World Police, which that's a fun movie, but the scene where the puppet just vomits just kills me every time. So I had that association in my brain. But it's also kind of how creepy that whole sequence is, especially when Jake gets down into the basement. And when Jake sees what's going on, you've got the Dutch angle, you've got the lights flickering on and off, and you have that wonderful shot where like every time the lights flicker on, Chucky's getting closer and closer till he finally gets to Jake, and he has this like crazy, creepy smile, which is just, oh, I love it. I love it so much. It's a very silly death again. Very original. But yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites in the franchise for sure. But as far as the first season goes, probably my favorite kill in that first season of the show.
Remember earlier when you were like, do you think Redman's death was the most ridiculous death in the franchise? and that kind of left a question in the air of what is the most ridiculous death in the Chucky franchise? I think I have my answer with Lucas in that episode of the show. And to be clear, I don't see ridiculous as an insult.
Oh no, not at all.
The ridiculous deaths are par for the course for this franchise, and they're a hoot.
Mm-hmm.
I
just don't see it as any sillier than the gut thing. I don't see it that way.
It's the fact that he projectile vomits on the guy that really got to me. Like, I was not expecting to see anything like that. Certainly not after most of the episode had been kind of more low key, and it kind of felt like they were doing kind of a more dark, subdued, curse of Chucky feel. And then Chucky turns around and he kills a man with his bodily fluids. We mentioned Leprechaun earlier. That's the kind of death that I could see the Leprechaun doing. Electrocuting somebody with in full frizzy haired and like the flashing lights like goddamn Marv in Home Alone 2 fashion.
Yeah, that was the only thing that the scene was missing, was a skeleton with a wig in place of
That would have been
Luke.
Amazing. That might have lost some people if he'd done that, but I would have been like, yes.
Well, and that scene also raises questions like, does Chucky have a stomach?
I mean, he eats, he drinks, he smokes weed, he has sex.
That's fair.
He's got some kind of working anatomy going on. It's inconsistent and probably best not looked into that deeply.
Well, I'm just thinking about like the sheer control he has to have in order to projectile vomit like that.
Yeah, I think the implication is that he did it by drinking a whole lot, which is like really committing to the bit. Like that's putting yourself through some physical punishment. When he could have just dumped the whiskey on the guy. Just use the bottle of whiskey and electrocute, but no. He was like, I gotta make this embarrassing for him.
Well, there are two timelines. There's a timeline where Chucky pours the whiskey out to electrocute him, and there's a timeline where Chucky vomits up the whiskey to electrocute him, and I am glad we are living in the vomit timeline.
I am, yes. Me too. I'm glad it was such an over-the-top kill. It was a very good mood setter and a
Hmm.
very good kill for the first episode.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So let's hear your number two.
My second favorite kill in the Chucky franchise is Tiffany Valentine in Bride of Chucky.
Hmm.
This is another electrocution death because there are multiple in the Chucky franchise, but this one is my favorite of those. When she is in the bathtub, shelling out with a glass of champagne, living her own best life, uh, watching Bride of Frankenstein on her big TV that she has hanging over the bathtub precariously. And then in barges Chucky, knocking the thing over. And it's like, talk about flashy kills. This kill has everything going for it. She's screaming and flailing around. The lights are flashing. There's bubbles everywhere. The TV is still on and playing the scene of Bride of Frankenstein, and it's all very symbolic.
Hmm.
It's such a set piece of a kill, so appropriate for Tiffany
It
Valentine.
really is. It really is. Especially like it gives Chucky a little bit of moment of catharsis because he gets out of his little playpen that she built for him. And he's pissed off. So just so good.
Yeah, such a good death. I think it's funny talking about how there's multiple electrocution deaths in the franchise. I feel
Hmm.
like every one of them is radically different.
Hmm.
Like there's
Uh,
something in terms of their tone and delivery. Each person who gets electrocuted does so in a very different kind of way, depending on the tone of the Chucky movie they're in. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it's just like Chucky has his favorite like deaths that he likes to do. Like he's obviously a stabber, but there's enough like variations in the stabbing to where it doesn't like get old.
Mhm.
And the same thing goes like because the franchise goes to the electrocution well quite a bit. Like for example, in Child's Play, where the doctor, the psychologist, he gets electrocuted to death through shock therapy.
Yes, and that was a kill that was more subtle, I think, than the bathtub or the
Hmm.
vomit, but still
Oh, definitely.
still properly frightening in its own way with like the effects and the bleeding
Hmm.
eyes.
Hmm. But yeah, and then I like that you tapped in on that, like the imagery of the Bride of Frankenstein, because Don Mancini has kind of returned to that Frankenstein well multiple times in the franchise. Most recently with the Frankenstein movie premiere at in the show, where there's a lot of cinematic parallels going on in there as well. So it's a nice little thing where it's like he you could tell that he loves film, and when he gets a chance to like sneak in the things that he loves, he goes for it, and the franchise is all the better for it.
Yeah, he likes to reference certain movies in symbolic comparison with things going on, and he does that very well, I think. Like
Yeah,
all the
and
all the psycho references in Seed of Chucky, I also
or
quite enjoy.
all the different Brian De Palma like camera tricks and reflections and all the different all the different movies in the TV show and everything like that. Yeah,
God damn,
like
yeah,
he
that man has a hard on for split diopter shots, and I don't blame him. They're sexy
yeah.
shots.
Hmm. It's just it's just you could tell that he loves film, and like I think it's what gives Chucky, compared to some other slashers, I think Chucky is a little more elevated because like it knows what it's doing. It knows that it can be farcical at times, but it also has that kind of cinematic artistry in mind.
Yeah, it has an identity, a very
Hmm.
clear cut vision of being. I don't know. It's just real good, you know. I just
Hmm.
I I like movies. I like movie references. Split diopter shots go wee.
Well, and then also like that death scene is what keeps Jennifer Tilly in the franchise, which the only actress I can think of who could keep up with um uh, Chucky would be Jennifer Tilly.
You mean Brad Dourif? Is that the name you're trying to remember?
Yeah, yes. Oh man, I'm having a rough one this morning. But yes, yeah, Brad Dourif in particular, yeah, just like they both have this like energy to them, and like I see their energies kind of mixing in these two characters, and it's fantastic. Like at this point, Tiffany has become as I feel as iconic as Chucky is.
Tiffany and Jennifer Tilly are definitely godsends to the franchise. I think they really breathed new life into it when Bride came out, and
Hmm.
have kept a certain kind of life in it since. That's yeah, no wonder Jennifer Tilly keeps coming back and Dawn keeps getting her back. And
Hmm.
Brad Dourif as well. His energy is amazing. This franchise lives and breathes through largely a selection of very good actors.
Hmm. Very much so. All right, so let me go ahead and give you my number two. So my number two is from Cult of Chucky, one of my favorites in the series, which is sometimes a controversial take. um, so my scene is where Claire, one of the patients at the mental health facility, she is strapped to the gurney, and she's also drugged. Chucky comes in and uses a compressed air tank to shatter the glass above her, and that glass rains down, pierces her, and beheads her. Um, it's a very dramatic looking death, that's for sure, especially with all the slow mo shots of the glass and everything like that. But what I like about the death so much is that it's a terrifying death for me. Specifically, like because she's restrained and the fact that she's drugged. So there's two levels of being unable to do anything about this, but to also kind of see your death coming in such like a very obvious way. That's terrifying to me.
Yeah, it definitely is. That the level of helplessness that comes with, I mean, being vulnerable enough to get killed by a doll, you know?
Right, but like even then it's like, okay, not only are you killed by the doll, but you're also drugged and tied to this table. It's like, oh, that's a very grim fate for because a bunch of people die in the movie, obviously, but like that one always just kind of stuck out to me as being just like, ooh, that's really mean.
Yeah, a real mean death. I mean, I guess she was kind of a mean character, and you give the meaner deaths to the meaner characters.
Hmm.
But she didn't deserve all that. I think that was
Yeah.
a little much, Chucky. Little bit of an overreaction.
But yeah, it's because it's a little much that it like sticks with me. Like just it just gives me the creeps. Absolutely.
I definitely I love a death scene that's a proper set piece in its right, as I've said, and that one with like the falling snow and all of
Hmm.
the slow mo with the glass and the music. It's definitely it's definitely extravagant, and I like that.
Yeah, especially with the slow motion, because it's like, well, obviously it's a stylistic choice, but then also it's like, well, maybe that's her perception too, because of you know the drug that she's on
I
that's meant to keep her. you know
Yeah, I do think it's a little on the silly side that like of the glass that falls, most of it is like little tiny speckles that don't do much damage, and then there's one big shard that chops her whole head off. Like, man,
it,
that's just
it is overkill.
unfortunate. Can
Yeah, it is overkill, but like
you imagine if
again,
like it just shattered into tiny pieces and like she was fine? Wouldn't Chucky be embarrassed just standing there like, well, shit.
yeah, he would have some line like, I gotta do this shit
This
myself then.
that's embarrassing. Don't tell anyone about this, okay? And then he just slits her throat.
Exactly. Uh, but I appreciate that we live in the timeline where the giant shard of glass beheads her.
Yeah, I mean it's better for Chucky's reputation.
Exactly. So I just thought it was I thought it was a pretty well filmed scene. With like Cult of Chucky, the quality isn't the best of the series. When it comes to like the doll, when it comes to some of the cinematography and stuff like that. But that scene had, I feel like, some artistry behind it, which I appreciate.
I think Cult of Chucky in general has a lot of artistry behind it. It is a low budget
Mhm.
straight to video movie, and it has limitations with that. But I think Don Mancini was really trying to make something extra artsy that go around.
Yeah, and it is like I would say it's probably my number 2 or 3 in the franchise. So like I really love that one.
Number two, damn. I'd I'd
Yeah,
I'd,
like
I'd
I
love
yeah
to know what your ranking is sometime.
yeah I don't know because the ranking kind of changes depending on what the last thing I watched was as well. But that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, but I would definitely say I would put the original Child's Play as my number one for sure, like forever and always. And I don't know if it's just the nostalgia of it being like the one that I saw when I was a kid. I just think it's a very well put together film. And then Child's Play 2 is up there as well. So it's a shifting ranking between 2 and 3 between Child's Play 2 or Cult of Chucky.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I am at. What about you?
My favorite, gee, I put down like a whole ranking of the movies a while ago, but I'm not sure if I could fully remember what it is. But I can tell you this much: my favorite is definitely Bride of Chucky.
Okay,
Bride of
yeah, and that's
Chucky,
a great one.
Bride of Chucky is my shit. I adore Tiffany. I love Jennifer Tilly. Seeing her in that movie is amazing. Ronnie Yu is an amazing director, and he gives that movie such a style with like the 90s grunge and the color scheme, and it's such a fun, pretty metal movie. Ch-
Very much so.
Child's Play, or maybe Child's Play 2, but I think probably Child's Play 1 would be number 2, because
Hmm.
that movie is a classic and very well made. But like
Yeah,
I tend to veer towards the Chucky movies that are funnier on the whole.
yeah, because there's the mean streak Chucky, and then there's the funny Chucky, and I think I'm more on like the mean side of things.
That's fair. I have a soft spot for horror comedy, and
Hmm.
I like when things are more silly and over the top, and you don't need to take them as seriously. When things don't make
Yeah,
sense, it doesn't matter as much because we're just here to have a good time. Plus, the funnier Chucky movies tend to have more Jennifer Tilly in them. So
that is also true. There is a dearth of Jennifer Tilly in all 3 of my top 3 Chucky movies, which is, uh, she needs to be in everything.
this
All right, so let's move on to your number 1 kill.
my number one kill is, as it so happens, from Bride of Chucky. And in an even bigger coincidence, it is a kill that very much represents your number two. It is the waterbed couple in
Mm.
the two swinger thieves in the honeymoon suite who are on the waterbed. And as
Hmm.
they're getting it on, Tiffany, once again, this is a Tiffany kill,
Hmm.
sneaks up behind them and throws a champagne bottle into the ceiling mirror. And this is just another credit to Ronnie Yu and to Don Mason and just everybody involved in this, because it's such a well shot death. Like
Hmm.
I love everything about it, every little detail. The shot of them, their reflection screaming, and then the reflection shatters, and then the shards fall once again in flashy slow motion. But this time, rather than just get beheaded, these two get cut the fuck up. They get like
Yes.
they get
Yes, they do.
absolutely shredded by these giant shards in like rapid succession, and then the whole water bed just whoosh explodes in this bloody water climax just all over the carpet, and it's
Hmm.
and Chucky's just standing there in awe of it all while
Hmm.
Tiffany like grins sadistically, and I'm right there with Chucky. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that
Well, and
that
I
happened.
I also appreciate that, like, as far as like, because crime scenes in the series, that's like probably one of the best crime scenes that you can get in the franchise. It's just this like ridiculous like flooded room with blood everywhere, glass shards.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
the aftermath is amazing.
Yeah, poor Kathy Najimy walking in her little brief uncredited cameo, seeing
Yeah.
just a whole mess of carnage.
I hadn't seen that one in a while, so when she walks in, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's Kathy
That's
Nanjimi.
Kathy Najimy. David Kirshner, I believe, called in a favor
Hmm.
because like he had just done Hocus Pocus. So free Kathy Najimy. Why not?
Oh yeah, that is a fun one. And it's again the the franchise will reuse these types of deaths, but like put a different spin on them. So like I got my beheading, you got your watery explosion, and we
Yeah.
both win.
Yeah, everybody wins except for the people that, get cut up by shattered glass, but what sucks to be them, I guess.
They died having fun though.
Yeah, they
That's
died in a truly memorable way. And if I'm going to die in a horror movie, I would want it to be in a really cool way. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
want
for
I'd
sure.
want something that audiences would walk out of the theater like, "Man, remember that one kill?
Yeah.
That was
Like
awesome."
you want that kill more than likely though. I'm the type to be just defenestrated, just shoved out a window. That's my death. You know, but I would take waterbed glass explosion any day of the week.
Definitely. I mean, if it's Tiffany doing it, like she can kill me however she wants. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, I don't want to make
No,
this
it's
weird.
fine. No, we're big fans of Jennifer Tilly on this podcast, and by extension, that means Tiffany too, because Tiffany's adorable.
Damn right.
I was just so excited to see her show up in the season finale.
Oh,
Yeah,
of the show.
yeah, of the
Oh
show.
yeah,
Yeah.
the doll Tiffany in the truck.
Yep.
Yes, I'm
Yep.
super excited for Andy versus doll Tiffany in season 2. They better do something good with that.
I hope so. I trust Don Mancini at this point. I've been on the ride for 7 movies and 8 TV show episodes. Like, okay, no, I like this Mancini kid. Let's see what he does next.
I fully believe that Don Mancini is someone who knows what the fans want. He
Mm-hmm.
he hears the response and he tries his damnedest to
Mm-hmm.
just give us everything. Sometimes he can't. Like Glenn and Glenda are still on sabbatical until
Yeah,
Universal
but we're
gets
we're
the
getting
stick out
hints
of their
though,
ass about it.
right?
I'd love for them to come back, really, more than anything else.
Yeah, just like even that mention when Jennifer Tilly, or Tiffany slash Jennifer Tilly in the season finale is unpacking that case of C4. She's like, oh my kid Glenda has exquisite taste, and I'm just, oh, thank God for a reference like that.
Yeah,
Just
and,
makes me
and a
so
loaded
happy.
reference, too. Like, now we know that
Mhm.
Glenda makes bombs out of makeup cases.
The Ray family is very problematic.
The, you
I'll
know,
just put it that way.
we've all got family dramas, We're all
Yeah,
dysfunctional.
the family that slays together stays together.
Hmm.
So, um, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and give you my number one,
Hit
which
me with
is
it.
from Seed of Chucky.
All right.
Um, it is when Pete Peters is melted by acid.
Yes.
So to take like the godfather of camp of John Waters, put him in a Chucky movie playing a sleazy photographer, and then to melt his face with acid is just, oh, I love that move. I love that move so much. In the scene, Chucky's trying to kind of train. At this point, it's the Glenn identity, because Glenda. I think the identity shifts a couple times throughout the film, but trying to like teach Glenn about killing, and Glenn accidentally causes the death of Pete Peters, and the acid falls from the shelf and just like starts melting him, and I love it so much.
It's a very good scene.
It's not the flashiest death in the franchise either, but like I think like for me it's like the symbolism of it, because the Chucky franchise is very campy. I'm sure that's not a shock to you.
It is. I'm wildly aware.
So just to have like that little moment of acknowledgement of the campiness of everything, and just to have John Waters in there playing a perfect John Waters character, and then just to melt his face off, just, oh, it's so wonderful, because I love John Waters. I love John Waters so much.
I love John Waters too. I haven't seen all his movies. There's a
Hmm.
couple of his more crazy ones that I haven't quite gotten to yet. I don't know if I'm ready.
Yeah, they're fun. I'll put it that way.
I do love what I have seen. I love his
Mhm.
manic devil may care. I'm gonna put anything I want into this.
No, you know, and it's not just John Waters as a filmmaker, but just like as a frickin' personality that just it's wonderful. Like our world is better because John Waters exists.
And his presence does a lot for Seed of Chucky too, because Seed of Chucky is another movie that does not give a shit what you think about it, and
Mm-hmm.
is doing
Mm-hmm.
whatever it wants. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
else be damned. And John Waters just he fits right in. You know, his presence
Mm-hmm.
makes the whole tone of that make just a little more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that scene so much. So it's not like the most interesting of the deaths. It's not even really like a Chucky kill. It's just wonderful to me.
It's not really an anybody kill, to be honest. It's kind of just like
Yeah.
an accidental whoopsie doodle.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that was my number one. So I think what I had is I had Child's Play, two Seed of Chucky, a Chucky TV show, and a Cult of Chucky kill, which is a pretty nice spread, honestly.
Yeah, I think my spread is decent. I did double dip on Bride of Chucky, having it be the top two kills.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't be avoided. They're both just too good, you know. And then
Mm-hmm.
and then one for the show, two for or one for three and one for Seed of Chucky, which is nice because those are
Mm-hmm.
two rather unappreciated movies, but they got a
Mm-hmm.
kill in. So
Oh yeah. All right. So I think I like that we each had like distinct, even though a couple of our kills were similar in theme, they're completely different context and they have like different aesthetics to them.
yeah,
We both had a falling glass and we both had a electrocution death, but they are wildly different.
that they are. Yes.
Um, so what I wanted to do is I had this bonus question for you, and it was, what was your favorite Chucky death where Chucky gets killed? What was your favorite?
My favorite Chucky death is and I do want to say that it did get a little bit challenged over the TV show because Chucky, as it turns out, dies a lot in the TV show, and it got pretty crazy. But despite all of that, my favorite death of his is still Child's Play 2. His
Mm.
because in Child's Play 2, his death is horrible. It is
Yeah.
multifaceted and just really grim. Like he suffers a lot through the whole third act of that movie in like not
Oh
just
yeah.
a gory way, but kind of like I don't know, it disturbed me. Most of Child's Play 2 I wasn't really that scared, you know, because it was a bit more on the silly side, but that ending kind of got to me in like a and I'll try to explain why because in Child's Play 2, I think more than any other movie, he spends a lot of the time not wanting to be a doll anymore, right? He wants to be
Hmm.
human. He hates his freakish form and he's trying to give himself a normal life again, but he keeps failing. And then at the
Hmm.
end, not only is he stuck in his doll body, but his doll body then proceeds to get 7 different kinds of fucked up. First, he loses his hand. He doesn't just lose it. He like has to yank it off slowly,
Hmm.
like it's pulled away from him more than
Oh
just like
yeah.
a clean slice. It's real rough. And then he gets painfully tacked onto this conveyor belt and backed up into this weird. I don't know why the factory even has this machine. Like how often in the factory, like, oh, quick, we gotta press the doll fuck upinator button. They need 5 Eldritch abominations by Tuesday. But he gets put into that and it puts like a whole bunch of limbs and stuff on him. And then when the doors open, he's like this gross, messed up amalgamation of plastic limbs. And it's harsh hearing him in there just like screaming in pain.
Oh,
Andy
it's
and
so good.
Kyle are enjoying it. I'm not so much. But it turns out he survived that because he somehow sliced himself in half, cut off his legs, and then he's out of the machine, crawling towards Andy again. And then, additionally, a big old pipe of molten wax, molten plastic gets sprayed all over him, like all Judge Doom style. He melts into goop, but even that doesn't kill him. He's somehow still alive, a half-formed pile of plastic. And so Kyle sticks an air hose in his mouth, makes him blow up like a big balloon, and then he explodes.
It
All
is
of
such a
that in like
wonderful
20 minutes.
yes, it is just such a wonderful series of events. Like I do love that one so much. Just the body horror of it all.
The body horror, the like existential horror. Like I ended up thinking of like the end of David Cronenberg's The Fly. You know, like
Yeah,
specific, not because it's that gory, it's not, but
right.
specifically the idea of, you know, Jeff Goldblum is trying to be human again and stop
Hmm.
himself from becoming a freak, and then at the end he tries and just ends up making himself even worse and
Hmm.
even more fucked up. And it's basically the same thing happens here. It's not as horrifically tragic because
Hmm.
Chucky is not a tragic character, but
Right.
it's still a little hard to watch.
Well, and I also appreciate that like Chucky, his goal is to not be a doll anymore, but he gets more and more doll stuff inflicted on him. Like when he gets all of those doll limbs just shoved into every part of his body, it's just like you don't want to be a doll. Well, too damn bad.
Yeah, like I mean, it's no wonder that the movies after two just get crazier because I imagine all this has taken a mental toll on him. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Um, no, I that is a wonderful Chucky death. Definitely like one of the most iconic in the franchise for sure. Um, my choice comes from Cult of Chucky, and it's a cathartic moment for me. That is when Andy disembowels a Chucky doll and pulls a gun out of him, and then proceeds to shoot the Chucky doll. Um, so, at one point in the third act of Cult of Chucky, another Chucky doll arrives with a really bad haircut, and no one really questions this. Well, it turns out that Andy had sent that doll with the gun inside it. Chucky does his voodoo ritual to split his soul into that doll, and then later when Andy is confronting him, this buzz cut Chucky, Andy just shoves his fist into the torso, and it is this wonderfully ridiculous moment where you have this little bloody doll flailing and screaming, and you have this 40-year-old man just fist deep into a doll, and he pulls out a fucking gun and just shoots Chucky. Oh, so good.
That is a very good scene. Like the weird, almost intimate level of violence of him just like with his bare hand just digging into his stomach.
Well, and
Like,
it's just such a fun way to like bring Andy fully back into the action too.
yeah,
Um, you know,
it's a very triumphant moment for Andy. Probably his only like really big moment in that movie, unfortunately.
yeah, because shit goes off the rails for him immediately.
Yeah, like I do have a little bit of a problem with Andy because he snuck a gun in the Chucky doll, presumably knowing there'd be multiple Chucky dolls, and then he just empties the whole thing into the one doll.
Well, Andy
It's like
has some rage
you
issues.
knew there were others. You didn't think this through, my guy.
Well, and we get more of that in the TV show too, which is great because you see that like Andy is so driven, but he also makes so many mistakes because he's like unstable because of all the shit he went through.
Yeah, he's mildly reckless. He abandons Kyle for really no good reason when they were like right outside their destination.
Hmm.
And he just needs to calm down and think things through a little better. And he'd probably have much better luck.
Yeah, and I think that looking back on this Chucky death now with the context of the TV series, it's like I think it's a good example. Like it's a good way to kind of build that character development for Andy, where you realize that Andy is motivated by this revenge, but he's not exactly going about it the right way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see like how his character develops from here. You know,
Hmm.
he kind of had Kyle with him as like a grounding element. But then he
Mhm.
separated from her, and we don't know where she is now. She might be dead.
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
know.
We'll find out in season 2.
Well, we'll find out in season 2.
All right. So, yeah, I think that was a lot of fun. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me on, David. This was a blast. I'm glad I was able to be a part of this whole thing.
And thank you for keeping me honest and correcting me, because like I apparently needed to get more sleep because I completely forgot that it was Tiffany that did the Red Man kill.
Yeah, man. I mean, I knew I had to say something, or else the people watching this,
Yeah.
you would have been bombarded with comments like, "That was Tiffany."
Yeah, it happens though. You get so into something and all of a sudden all the wires get crossed. So,
Yeah.
that being said, where can we find you on the internet?
Well, I'm on Twitter right now. My as it were, is Jada7. So if you wanna see my live tweets of the Chucky franchise, I have that pinned, and I do other live tweets as well, and just like regular tweets talking about stuff. You know, I'm open to making friends if you want to say hi, and maybe you'll see me in the future on various movie-based blog sites. We'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, I'd love to see you start like getting some stuff out there. So like I'll throw some stuff your way because like I really enjoy your Chucky tweets so much, and I would like to see you apply that to other stuff because you're very funny.
Thank you,
So,
David. You're very flattering and very funny yourself.
oh, I appreciate that. So yeah, I think we'll go ahead and close out. So next episode should be in a couple weeks, or maybe yeah, in a couple weeks I'll be tackling getting back to the films. Actually, I'll be doing Child's Play 3.
Ooh.
I literally did the first 2 movies, and then I just did weekly on the series, and now I'm starting to get back into the movies. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited to get back into the movies. I'm working on a couple of other episodes that are gonna be fun. So other than that, I guess we will close out here. Thank you everyone for listening. Be sure to share the podcast if you enjoy it, and check out all the cool content at HauntedMTL.com.
Yeah.
Jada, again, thank you so much.
Thank you, David. This was a real pleasure.
All right, and keep it creepy.
Bye, everybody.
You have been listening to Kids' Stuff, a Chucky podcast, a Haunted MTL original podcast. Our theme is Pop Goes the Weasel by Kevin MacLeod. You can find more of Kevin MacLeod's music at incompetech.filmmusic.io. If you want to find out more about me, the podcaster, you can just go to hpkomics.com, hpcomics.com, or you can find me on the socials at hpkomic. For more great horror content, do not forget to visit hauntedmtl.com.